Chapter 6. The City That Conquers Pride. It was a full moon night. Shiva stood at the anchored ship's balustrade as he looked into the dark expanse of forest on the Chambal's bank. Deep in the distance was what seemed to be a massive hill made of pure black stone. Shiva had been observing that hill all evening. It was too smooth to be natural. Even more unusually, it had an inverted bowl-like structure at the top that was distinctly a cupola. It was colored a deeper hue of black as compared to the rest of the hill, which it was certainly not a part of. "It's man-made, Baba," said Kartik. Shiva, Ganesh and Brahaspati turned towards Kartik, who was crouching, looking at the bank of the river from a lower height. Shiva went down to the same level as Kartik. He observed the area behind the palm tree clearing. He could clearly see the pattern of the ancient Vayuputra image. Fravashi. As his eyes traced the path of the slope, he realized that had the incline continued, it would have ended at the very top of the black hill in the distance, at the cupola. Brahaspati spoke up. "The slope with the trees is probably the remnant of a very long ramp that was used to carry that stone cupola to the top of the hill." Shiva smiled at the precise engineering skills of the Vasudevs. He had known his mysterious advisors for years. He looked forward to finally meeting their leader. Daksha gazed at the full moon reflected in the shimmering Saraswati waters. He was standing by a large window of his private palace chamber. He had increasingly isolated himself in the last few months, avoiding meeting people as far as possible. He was especially terrified of meeting Maharishi Vrigu, convinced as he was that the Maharishi would read his mind and realize that it was Daksha who had foiled the attack on Panchavati in an attempt to save his beloved daughter. But this period of isolation had done wonders for Daksha and Virini's relationship. They were conversing, even confiding in each other once again, almost like the first few years of their marriage, before Daksha had developed ambitions to become the ruler of Meluha. Virini walked up to her husband and placed her hand on his shoulder. "What are you thinking?" Daksha pulled back from his wife. Virini frowned. Then she noticed Daksha's hands. He was holding an amulet that showed his chosen tribe, the self-declared ranking within the caste hierarchy that is adopted by young men and women. It was a subordinate rank, a lowly goat. Many Kshatriyas felt that the goat-chosen tribe was so low that it did not entitle its members to be considered complete Kshatriyas. In Daksha's case, it was his father Brahmanayak who had selected his chosen tribe, clearly reflecting his contempt for his son. "What's the matter, Daksha?" "Why does she think I'm a monster? I got rid of her son for her own good. And we didn't abandon Ganesh. He was well taken care of in Panchavati. And how can she imagine that I would have even think of getting her husband killed? It wasn't me." Virini stayed silent. Now was not the time to confront her husband with the truth. Had he wanted to, he could have saved Chandadhwaj, Sati's first husband. Daksha may not have got the killing done through commission, but he was complicit by omission. However, weak people never admit that they are responsible for their own state. They always blame either circumstances or others. I am saying once again, Daksha, let's forget everything, said Virini. You have achieved all you wanted to. You are the Emperor of India. We cannot live in Panchavati anymore. We lost that opportunity long ago. Kali and Ganesh despise us, and I don't blame them for it. Let us take sannyas, retreat to the Himalayas, and live out the rest of our lives in peace and meditation. We will die with the name of the Lord on our lips. I will not run away. Daksha, everything is clear to me now. I needed the Nilkant to conquer Swadeep. He has now served his purpose. Sati will be back once he is gone, and we will be happy again. A horrified Virini stared at her husband. Daksha, what in Lord Ram's name are you thinking? I can set everything right by. Trust me, the best thing to do is to leave all this alone. You should never even have tried to become emperor. You can still be happy if... Never tried to become emperor? What nonsense. I am the emperor, not just of Meluha, but of India. You think some barbarian with a blue throat can defeat me? That a chillum-smoking, uncouth ingrate is going to take my family away from me? Virini held her head in despair. I made him, said Daksha, and I will destroy him. My lord, exclaimed Parshuram, look. Shiva turned to look towards the dense forests beyond the palm tree clearing. In the distance, they saw a sudden flight of birds flying off into the sky, obviously disturbed by massive movement. The approaching mass was effortlessly pushing trees aside as it forged through the forest. They are here, said Nandi. Shiva turned around and spoke loudly. Ganesh, lower the boats. Having left a majority of the soldiers on board, Shiva and his entourage of 200 were already at the clearing when enormous elephants burst through the jungle. They wore intricately carved ceremonial forehead gear made of gold. The human handlers of the elephant, or mahouts, sat just behind the beast's head and were secured into their position with ropes. They were covered from head to toe in cane armor, which protected them from the whiplash of the branch that the elephants effortlessly pushed aside. With the aid of gentle prodding with their feet as well as the hand-held hooks called ankush, the mahouts expertly guided the elephants into the clearing. Firmly secured on the backs of the elephants were large, strong wooden howdahs fashioned to extend horizontally from the side of the animals. Completely covered from all sides, they afforded protection to the people inside. Angled slats allowed access to air, and a side door to the howdahs facilitated entry. Shiva's eyes were fixed on the first elephant in the line. As it halted, the slide door flung open and a rope ladder was flung down. A tall and lanky pandit, clad in a saffron dhoti and angavastram, climbed down. As soon as the pandit's feet touched the ground, he turned towards Shiva, his hands folded in a respectful namaste. He had a glowing white beard and a long silvery mane. His wizened face, calm eyes, and gentle smile showed a deep understanding of true wisdom. The wisdom of Sat Chit Anand, of truth consciousness bliss. The unrelenting bliss of having one's consciousness and mind drowned in truth. Namaste, Panditji, said Shiva. It's an honor to finally meet the Chief Vasudev. Namaste, great Nilkant, said Gopal politely. "Believe me, the honor is all mine. I have lived for this moment." Shiva stepped forward and embraced Gopal. The surprised Chief Vasudev responded tentatively at first and then returned the embrace as the open-heartedness of the Nilkant made him smile. Shiva stepped back and looked at the large number of men and elephants waiting patiently. "It's a little crowded, isn't it?" Gopal smiled. "This is a small clearing, great Mahadev. We don't really meet too many people." "Well, let's climb aboard your elephants and leave for Ujjain." "Certainly," said Gopal as he gestured towards his men. The howdahs were surprisingly spacious and could seat up to 8 people in relative comfort. The carriage with Gopal and Shiva also carried Sati, Ganesh, Kartik, Brahaspati, Nandi and Parshuram. "I hope your journey was comfortable," said Gopal. "Yes, it certainly was," said Shiva before pointing towards Ganesh. "My son guided us well." "The lord of the people has the reputation of a wise man," agreed Gopal. "And stories of the warrior spirit of your other son Kartik have already reached our ears." Kartik acknowledged the compliment with a slight nod and folded his hands into a respectful namaste. "Panditji, is it because of the distance that it takes us a day to reach Ujjain, or is it the density of the forest?" asked Shiva. "A bit of both, great Nilkant. We have not built any roads from the clearing on the Chambal into the city of Ujjain. We do not really meet a lot of people. But when we do need to travel, we have well-trained elephants that make it possible for us." The people sitting in the howdahs had got used to the sounds of foliage crashing and scraping against the outside of the closed carriage. It had been a long and steady ride, due to which their attention was immediately drawn when the sound stopped. Gopal spoke up before any of them could make enquiries. "We are here." As he said this, Gopal pressed a lever to his left. Hydraulic action made 3 sides of the howdahs, the left, right and rear, slowly collapse outwards. Support pillars on the side remained strong and held the howdah roof up. Horizontal metal railings ensured no passenger fell out. But none were paying attention to the engineering behind the howdah. They were all transfixed by Ujjain, the city that conquers pride. The entirely circular city had been laid out within a giant perfect square clearing in the dense forest. A sturdy ring of stones almost 10 feet in depth and 30 feet in height ran around the city, a strong and effective fort wall. The Shipra River, a tributary of the Chambal which flowed along Ujjain, had been channeled into a moat around the walls. The moat followed the dimensions of the forest clearing. Therefore, the circular city was enclosed within a square moat. The moat was infested with crocodiles. The elephants ambled slowly towards the moat, but much to everyone's surprise, there did not appear to be any bridge. Shiva had seen many forts across India with retractable drawn bridges across their moats. These moats provided effective defense against the siege engines that an enemy used to attack a city fort's wall. He expected the elephants to stop and wait till the drawbridge was lowered. But neither did the elephant stop, nor was there any sign of a drawbridge being lowered. Instead, There were 20 armed men who stood on the raised embankments which ran around the moat. As the elephants neared, 2 men stepped back and pushed hard on what appeared like cobbled ground. A button the size of a stone block depressed into the embankment with a soft hiss. This in turn triggered a part of the ground just before the embankment to slide sideways, revealing broad, gentle steps descending deep into the earth. The steps led to a well-lit tunnel which the elephants entered. The Vasudev guards went down on their knees in obeisance to the Nilkant. Karthik looked at Ganesh, smiling. "What a brilliant idea, Dada!" Yes, instead of building a bridge over the moat, they had built a tunnel underneath it, and the door to the tunnel merges completely into the cobbled ground, thus being effectively camouflaged. The entire ground around the moat is cobbled. This will prevent animal tracks from appearing around the tunnel entries. Unless an enemy knows exactly where the entrance is, he can never find a way to cross the moat and enter the city. Nandi looked at Gopal. "Your tribe is intelligent. Your tribe is brilliant, Panditji." Gopal smiled politely. As the elephants moved towards the city gates, the passengers noticed large geometric patterns along the wall. They were a series of concentric circles boxed within a single, perfect square that skirted the outermost circle. It seemed to symbolize the aerial layout of Ujjain. The circular fort wall of the city was not an accident, but the culmination of what the Vasudevs believed was the perfect geometric design. "We have built the entire city in the form of a mandal," said Gopal. "What is the mandal, Panditji?" asked Shiva. "It is a symbolic representation of an approach to spirituality." "How so?" "The square boundary of the moat symbolizes Prithvi, the land we live on. It is represented by a square that is bound on 4 sides, just like our land, which is also bound by the 4 directions. The space within the square represents Prakriti, or nature, as the land that we live on is uncultured and a wild jungle. Within it, the path of consciousness is the path of the Paramatma, which is represented by the circle." "Why a circle?" "The Paramatma is the Supreme Soul. It is infinite, and if you want to represent infinity through a geometric pattern, you cannot do better than with a circle. It has no beginning. It has no end. You cannot add another side to it. You cannot remove a side from it. It is perfect. It is infinity." Shiva smiled. A bird's eye view of Ujjain would show that within the circular fort walls there were 5 tree-lined ring roads that had been laid out in concentric circles. The outermost road skirted the fort walls. The remaining 4 were arranged in concentric circles of decreasing diameter. The smallest ring road circled the massive Vishnu temple at the center of the city. 20 paved radial roads extended in straight lines from the outermost ring to the innermost. These roads effectively divided Ujjain into 5 zones. The outermost zone between 4th and 5th ring road had massive wooden stables for various domesticated animals such as cows and horses. The pride of place was occupied by thousands of well-trained elephants. The next zone between the 3rd and the 4th ring road was for the residences of the novices and trainees. It also housed their schools, markets, and entertainment districts. The zone between the second and the third ring road housed the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras among the Vasudevs. The one between the first and the second ring road housed the Brahmins, the community which administered the tribe of Vasudevs. And within the first ring road, in the heart of the city, was the holiest place in Ujjain, the central temple. The temple was made of black bricks and was what had appeared as a hill to Shiva from the Chambal. Entirely man-made, this temple was in the shape of a perfect inverted cone, with its base in a circular supportive by 1,000 pillars running along its circumference. The conical temple was completely hollow inside and rose in every smaller circles to reach its peak at a height of a gigantic 200 meters. A central pillar made of hard granite had been erected within the temple to support the massive weight of the ceiling. A giant cupola made of black limestone had been placed at the apex of the temple. Weighing almost 40 tons, the cupola had been rolled onto the top of the temple by using elephants to pull the stone over a 20-kilometer long gradual incline. It was the remnants of the incline that Shiva had seen at the Chambal. Of course, Shiva and his entourage were yet to see this grandeur. As the elephants emerged from the tunnel onto the outer ring road along the inner fort wall, all eyes fell upon the vision that was impossible to miss from any part of Ujjain, the Vishnu temple at the center. The entire entourage stared in wonder at the awe-inspiring sight. Only Brahaspati voiced what everyone felt within. Wow,